Hello, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Breakdown. My name is Ben, and on today's episode, we actually have a special guest star. This is Zackary Marois. He is from Dwarf Star Comic Books, and he is actually about to launch a Kickstarter for his second comic book, Voyage. And he reached out to us to ask if we could maybe get some more attention to it, get some more people looking at this thing. And I got to tell you, it looks really good to me. Uh, Zackary, what is Voyage all about?
All right, so you know how when you see sci-fi movies like Predator, Aliens, Resident Alien, I could go on and on. But when you see these films, the main character is a human. Imagine how cool it would be if you could see Predator as the actual main character of his own movie on an alien planet, probably fighting the aliens, the xenomorphs, because they have a lot of backstory, just warfare between the two.
Sure.
Just watching that, no human involvement at all whatsoever, just focusing on that. And even in comic books, it's the same thing. The only characters I could imagine that are pure alien is Zen Intergalactic Ninja, Savage Dragon, and Resident Alien. But Resident Alien's on Earth, so he
Sure.
barely deals with any kind of alien stuff. So I felt when I was at the Joe Cooper School, that's a market missed. And I had this idea since for so long. But the idea is this extraterrestrial species, which he's a Cometan, and he's exiled from his star system due to religious differences between his ancestral background that caught up to him.
Oh,
And
interesting.
once he was exiled out, everything that he learned there, he's got to relearn how to be in the real world, the big world outside, your parents' house, so he gets taken advantage of everything. So I'm starting issue one, at that moment of once he was exiled, like out the door, and it's his first planet that he heads to, and he's on a hero's quest to find these mystical pieces called the Spear and Nod. And the Spear and Nod is originated from this dead religion that everybody else in the universe no longer is aware of, nor do they care about it. It's just a story that you tell your children to make them behave, basically like a fable tale.
Okay.
And believe it or not, there's more truth to it than everyone seems to believe. And he is the only one that is aware of it. And he's trying to find it to unite the universe once again. So there's a lot of xenophobia, towards him because his species is the core reason why the universe is shaped the way it is.
Oh,
They
interesting.
started everything, with all of it. Dude, the backstory is crazy. But to put it simply, that's what Voyage is. It's just
Okay.
a lonely combatant trying to make his way into the world.
It is a voyage through the stars. Oh, that's really cool.
I mean, yeah, when you're thinking of like comic book titles, we're all thinking of long words and yeah, subtitles, adding so much into it. Being in the Cooper School, one of the biggest things they always say consistently, not only with your artwork, but when you write, think simple. Because when people read it, when they're looking at everything to face value, that's the first impression. They don't want an audiobook or just paragraphs upon paragraphs on a page. You got to break it down to its simplest format. So Voyage is what I came up with. That was the best description to what the story is all about.
And I would say from a creative standpoint, I also think it helps you stay focused too. It's not about like there's a whole bunch of stuff that a voyage is made out of, but as long as you keep that mind, keep that word in mind and that spirit in mind, that'll help with the ongoing storytelling. Like it kind of keeps you from getting lost because you always know what is this about? Oh, it is about this character on a voyage. Excellent. Slim everything down. That's what you should be focused on. That to me, that's really good storytelling.
Oh, I agree. The biggest problem that as I was writing this for so many years, I would draft it over and over again. When I was at the Cooper School, I was doing that, and there was a buddy of mine first year. He only went for 1 year, and he told me, he goes, no one cares about the origin of the, of the any character. They just want to see the character do cool stuff. And he goes, don't even start in the beginning, because that's what I was working on. Like, how can I continue forward with the story if I don't have the beginning of the story all, set up and wrapped together? And he
Interesting.
goes, don't worry about that. Just throw the character in the middle of something, focus on that one little adventure, and then what you do in that moment in that story will help unfold certain things for you, where it would finalize some of the beginning stuff, so you can go back and work on that and finalize it. And I was like, damn, this dude's a genius, because it worked. Because believe it or not, Voyage issue 1 that I'm launching in Kickstarter, that's his first issue of his ongoing series, but this is my third Voyage book. When I was
Oh,
in the
okay.
keeper school during my second year, I was putting together the anthology story, which is an 88-page story that I brought in 23 other keeper school students to work on this project. And
Wow.
I had to headline everything, because my biggest thing was, well, I only had 10 pages that I can conjure up and get it to completion to add into this book amongst pinups and other stuff. But that's not a book's worth. How do I
Sure.
get other people into it? So I had them, put their OCs into it, and had my character travel and be involved into their story somehow. So that way there is still a storytelling device from beginning to end, even though it's an anthology. Because anthology comics, there's no unifying element that meshes it together. They're just separate stories. So having him as an alien and travel everywhere was the best way to do that.
Yeah, that's a super, super efficient idea. And it's a good way to also keep your character kind of headlining. We're sure these other stories might focus on other characters and other situations, but given your character is the one you really want people to like focus on and kind of empathize with, that's a cool way to kind of take them along on a voyage with you. That's really smart.
Thank you. So Voyage the Call, that was my second book. The Voyage anthology was a bunch of stories. So it wasn't just Sonderon featured in that, it was a bunch of other
Okay.
characters. When I got out of the school, I was like, all right, now I need to do a story, see how Sonderon looks in action. It's a one-shot comic, and I launched that on Kickstarter when I got out. And it funded, and it's like a 32-page smaller sized one-shot comic,
Okay.
um where there's like a Voyage to the Call.
Very nice little
And
ash can sized.
yeah, a little, yeah, exactly. It's like a travel companion. I wanted to, instead of making it a regular size like everybody, I was trying, like, if it's on Kickstarter, I want to try and be creative with it. And one of the biggest problems I face is no one likes smaller comics. It's like a more of a United Kingdom
Yeah.
type of thing they like doing. So it's a lesson learned. But one of the cool things that I did was, this whole book was experimental, and the story just was amazing. The things that I did in the story, I was like, I know what to do with like the beginning series now. So again, this was a good reason, and people loved it. I got the name out more so, and I got feedback surveys where everyone's like, "Dude, this is like really new and unique. I really want to see this. Be like, when can I get issue 2 or whatever?" And it was disappointing to say, well, I gotta, that wasn't issue 1. I gotta
Yeah.
work on it. We'll be launching that.
Oh, well, from a comic reader perspective, I have to ask, does a reader need to have read The Call in order to get into the current voyage?
No, like, the way that I worked on it is that when you work on uh issue 1, sorry, I'm like thinking all over the place, because
Yeah.
like the way that I knitted the story stuff, when you read issue 1, I have it panned out for 6 issues for the first story arc, where Voyage the Call fits is in between issue 6 and 7,
Oh,
and
that's
then where
fantastic.
huh?
That's fantastic that you've got like literally you've got it like slotted into your narrative. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. And then this one, the anthology is actually slated canon wise in betweens like 8 and 9.
Okay,
So obviously those issues aren't made yet, but I know where to put those books in case anybody asks. So
sure. No, that's fantastic. That's one. It's a double-edged sword when collecting. Like as a Marvel fan, so many books are happening at the same time as other books, or before or after, and you kind of got to create your own continuity. And on the one hand, it's a fun storytelling puzzle, but on the other hand, if you miss a thing, that can be super frustrating. Um,
Yep.
so I super for us from a reader's perspective, I appreciate that okay, this story's happening here, even if there's no like classic editorial box like go check out The Call. At least you know where your story's at, and it allows you to keep everything moving smoothly. That's really nice.
Thank you. It's a pain to figure it out in the beginning, but again, it's one of those things. Work on that story, and you'll figure out what how you could fit those other things you've done previously in. And dude, it's amazing because like you're thinking so much detail, and you got to push it back.
Yeah, it's hard to remember sometimes. You're working on a comic book, and there's only so much you can put on a page without drowning it in text, and it just becomes like an encyclopedia entry.
Like what inspired me to keep pushing forward with the story, not giving up on it, is Adam Kubert did a drawing of Sonderon for the anthology book from the beginning when I was in the school. And the reason why it meant a lot is that word got around that Adam Kubert did a drawing in the 90s for like a student, and that student sold it on eBay. And Adam Kubert found out, and he never did a drawing for any of the students ever.
Sure.
Now, pushing back like 4 years ago, I'm making the anthology book. I catch him in the hallway at the right time, during the summer when I was like being the RA, taking care of the property and stuff. He hears me talking how passionate I am about making that anthology book, and he goes, "Can I help?" And I'm like, "What?" It's like, "Can I do something for it?"
Whoa.
I was stuttering. He goes, like, "I'll give you a couple days to think about it. Come to my office on Monday." So, I got up to him, and I'm just like, just asking, like, could you like, like, would you like to do a drawing? He's like, "Yeah, you bet." And and the anthology is the drawing.
Oh,
The
that is gorgeous.
Yeah, let me show you the black and white. Hopefully that glare isn't.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that inspired everybody to keep pushing forward. And I'm actually trying to I messaged him, hoping to hear word back, because I want to do a virgin variant of that image where it's colored differently and offer it as a variant cover version tier for $50 on the campaign, but I will not go for it unless I have his blessing.
sure. Oh my God, that is so cool. Like, the idea that, like I said, just gushing over your own thing, and he's just like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So Adam Kubert and Tom McFarlane are like my two top favorite guys,
I was
artists I'm inspired by. So to have imagine Tom McFarlane drawing your own OC character.
sure.
That's insane.
That
It's
is so
insane.
cool.
Yeah, like I was just freaking out, and he didn't expect any compensation from me. He's like, "Dude, this is yours. Like, go for it." And I'm like, "Dang, dude."
Well, that's even one of the things that makes me love the story even more is it's not even just a matter of him um being in love with your energy, but you were creating the comic. And obviously he works for the Kubert School. His part of his job, and I would assume part of his passion, is to make comic artists. Why wouldn't you want to help somebody do that kind of thing? But the fact that he was still so generous with his time to do a sketch for you and let you use it, um, that's just all awesome and wholesome. I'm getting like a contact high off of your story. That's fantastic.
I appreciate it, man. Because like even talking about it, the one thing I do is I don't like to be excited of when I'm working on it currently. Um, it's only when it's funded or like the book is made. I save that excitement for when the book ships in the mail and I open it up and I'm like, oh my God, like let's go. And
Oh,
so when I talk about it, it comes out a little bit and I gotta suppress it sometimes.
Sure. It's
Won't let
always
you
a
work.
it's always a hard read too, because some people you'll talk about comics with and you'll be real excited and real animated, and it comes off as too much. I've definitely been that guy where I'll get into a discussion with someone who's maybe watched the MCU movies and they're not familiar with the comics, and then I start diving into comic stuff and they're just, you can see that they're a little put off. And I was just like, oh, right, okay, we got to tone it down.
Yeah, because it's like, how could you not have read that? Or, like, oh, you got to read this, or you start talking about, yeah, I feel that, man. I really do feel that.
Yeah, it's so obvious in our corner of the world, and it's just not that everybody lives in that corner, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I had specifically wanted to ask why you had picked a non-human character, because that's, like you said, it's one of those things you always see, whether it's in comic books or even in movies. um One of my big classic complaints about the Transformers films, in a bevy of complaints, so why don't you just have it star Transformers? Like, we love those characters, we love Optimus Prime. I do not need a human stand-in to empathize with. I love Optimus, give me that. um
Yeah.
so I love the fact that your character comes from that same point of inspiration. And like you said, the idea of just follow a predator around the galaxy and watch them get into adventures and stuff. Again, that's such a simple concept. Why wouldn't you want to read this?
Exactly. And the movie that, whether people love it or hate it, but it was really successful during that year was Avatar.
Sure.
And I firmly believe that it's because of the culture. The Natiri was pretty much the main character. I mean, you could have Jake, and he was being a douche throughout the whole movie, trying to betray them and stuff. But Natiri really was the star and focal point throughout that whole thing, and that said something to me. And I'm a huge fan of sci-fi comics from EC back in the 50s with Wally Wood and Al Williamson and such. And looking at, and they told human stories, through like astronauts and all that stuff. And there's some few alien stuff that's involved, but they're always seen as like the enemy or whatever. And I'm just like, um Zen Intergalactic Ninja in the 80s, that character, like, I love that character, but there's no way you can jump on that comic at all, know where to start. There's so many issue ones. You don't know which one is like, which issue two is the right issue two and such. But why was that character so popular? It was an indie character during a time where indie stuff wasn't doing well until Image started coming around in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's because I firmly believe that it was an alien, and like they didn't want to do the human element at all whatsoever. They went full-fledged into that, and that's a market that I saw that I need to fit into the industry, because as an artist, not so much as writers, but more so for artists. How do artists fit in and have their own mark in the industry when they're tabling at shows, when they're featuring themselves and trying to make connections? You gotta have something unique, and this is unique enough where it can have me stand out amongst all these other people. It's
Sure.
got to be different. And it's outside of the superhero genre. In comics, people are superhero fatigued. That's why manga is such a huge influence, and that's why their sales are dominating
Absolutely.
countries like comic book, titles. I mean, Batman is like part of one of 10 highest selling comics. The only it's I think it's like number 9 or 8, where it's a Batman variant where it's got Fortnite in it for the variant cover. That was the highest selling title for Batman, be sold, and then all of that is like manga above that. They're dominating. So I can see it. You got to look at the numbers. You got to see what's out there, and that's how you'll realize like how you can fit in.
That's it finally clicked for me when you had mentioned Zen, the Intergalactic Ninja. When I first saw your artwork, it definitely reminded me of something, but I couldn't remember what that something was. And I never read Zen, but I do remember seeing, when we did get access to the internet, like seeing the character and seeing covers and just, what is this? And even going to like local cons when I was younger, Um, and I can see some of that DNA for sure, having embedded itself like in your mind a little bit. That's fascinating that you mentioned that. That's really cool
Yeah,
though. That
it's true though.
a 40
It's
year long
true. And
40
Zen
year
was
long
a
seed.
short-lived character.
I'm sorry.
Zen was a short-lived character.
Oh,
He
sure.
like came out and then dropped, and we all know it's because of the many titles that they had coming out. You couldn't figure out which is which, and
Yeah.
you couldn't like the black and white stuff. Like they could have done something. They're so popular enough where they had their own uh fan base, right? Where they can definitely go on Kickstarter and recolor and add color to all their stuff and add it in a collected omnibus edition.
That's
It's a missed
interesting.
opportunity.
That's I wonder if the creators like still have an interest in the character at all, like after all this time. Wow.
I've asked them, and they said that
Oh,
they're not. I guess they're not into it as much.
yeah, they just moved
Like
on.
it's a. I mean, they're still doing Zen, so it's like
Really?
you could collect it. You could add it in an omnibus edition. Billy Tucci did that with She. He made a killing on sales.
Sure. Wow. I did not know Zen was still an ongoing comic or that they still made issues of it. That's incredible.
He's got an obscure fan base. He does.
Wow. Just a dedicated
Yep.
core. Wow, I might have to check that out because like I said, I couldn't remember the name, but I did a couple Google searches for like big head, bald alien character, and it's a generic enough term that there's a million sketches, and I couldn't get the right one. But then when you said Zen, I could feel it slot into my head. I was like, whoa! I was transported back to like '94.
I mean, there's no humans at all in my stories. Like for the series, I don't want humans. There'll be
Okay,
aliens that have like similarities, but I
I
don't want
was
astronauts. I don't want that stuff involved.
okay. I was going to actually ask, is there a plan for human characters at some point, or like, do you know where Earth is in your galactic map? And you're like, we're just not going to go anywhere near it. That's cordoned off.
No, I'm not touching it. Like, I'm just so sick and tired of like Earth stuff.
Sure.
Let Earth stuff be Earth stuff, and like the alien stuff to really hit the sci-fi like thing on the head. It's got to be sci-fi all the way. It's got to go all in or nothing, and that's how I see it when I treat it.
Very interesting. That's really cool. Let me get rid of
But
that real quick.
yeah,
That's really cool. So you had mentioned that you have plans for multiple issues. The Kickstarter is just for issue one.
oh yeah. So uh, for issue one, it's 48 pages. I have two stories in it.
I mean, that's two comic books right there.
Pretty much, like I see it this way: when you're on Kickstarter and people don't know who you are, what are you offering people who are going to back into it? Like, what is going to tempt them to, be involved in this project to give money to you to help fund it? One of them being is add more pages to the book. If and it's a first issue, go a little bit big, and you're going to give them their money's worth that way. So I made it bigger, and I added a lot of like prints, extra stuff to it, like prints like 9 by 12, 11 by 17, custom images. I got a variant offered. So there'll be a sticker bundle when the stretch goal hits. I'm still awaiting word from Adam Kubert to see if I can offer that.
Sure.
Desktop screen images. Um, you got to offer them as much as you can, uh, and make sure the quality is good. I'm a huge stickler for quality. I don't like poor quality, and it's all full colored. And these are like the things you should entice them, because if the goal is 8,300 at the moment, right? And if I go ahead and like offer, hey, I got a 22-page standard comic size, like for that much, people are like, why is it that much? Like, I'm just gonna get like a thin
Yep.
comic, that I'm pledging money to, that I'm paying $10, $15 or something, when I can just go to a comic store and pay $4 for a cover. Like you gotta hit them with
Yep.
it. So It's $10 for the comic, but it's 48 pages, and you're getting like a bunch of other stuff with it. I don't shy away from offering more than what I can.
That's spectacular. I ran into the same problem when I was self-publishing my own stuff. Was it's you ask for $3 to $4 an issue and you're losing money, period. But you ask for more, and it's really hard to get someone who's like, I'm coming into the shop for Batman. Why should I check out your comic for more money? That's a hard sell, but that's a good, like I said, that's two comics for the price of one, essentially, and a brand new universe to explore.
Yep. And what sucks is that when crunching the numbers in, the reason why the goal is 8,300 is that the production cost for the talent to get the work done. I'm not even paying myself for this campaign. It's to get the other stages of this book's process done, and it totals up to like 5,500.
Damn.
Colors, inks, letters, editor, to make sure it is absolutely ready to print in the best quality possible. They got to get paid. And what I see these Kickstarters do, they drop these goals to like 4,000, 3,000. And what they're doing, and I know what they're doing, they're paying like out of pocket to the point where they're making themselves get in debt to pay the talent before they launch, and they don't recuperate that cost.
Sure.
That's one. And two is that they pay the talent dirt cheap, like, let's say like $20 a page, $40 a page. These guys have lives. They don't have time to waste. They're doing other stuff as well. They're doing commissions and gigs. So they got to be compensated for the work that they provide. I'm taking a bite to the bullet, and I don't mind that because making the product print is what matters to me at the moment. It'll
Sure.
change later on once I earn a reputation that people start, know who I am, but I'm not there, so I'll bite the bullet now. That's why 8,300 is accumulated.
Okay. Do you intend to do the pencils yourself for everything as much as you can? Like
Yes.
assuming, let's say issue one gets fully supported and you're able to keep going, that's you want to keep drawing everything yourself?
Oh, of course. Issue one is definitely 48 pages. Issue two will go down, it'll drop down to issue 22, 24 pages. It goes down to like the actual standard because the first issue is supposed to be explosive, introduction, here you go.
Yeah.
And then quality needs to be consistent. One of the things that I don't like is when I read comics, I hate when like an art style is different. Reading like issue 2 and 3 and 4, it's like it throws the game off.
Yep.
So I'm going to be penciling the pages, and then I'll grab like the inker to do more and more, and then the colors to do the same thing. It's one of the only ways to really, like, once it comes out, that's the impression that people go uh, when they see it, and that's what they expect to see for issues coming forward in the future. And I don't blame them because I'm the same way too. I hate
Sure.
buying a comic on the shelf and the cover is beautiful and you look up on the interior, see the artwork, and it's garbage. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah. Even
It's frustrating.
even if the interior is still good, but it's not who it was on the cover, that's still enough dissonance to be really frustrating. That's, I'm one of my favorite artists is Jim Chung. And if I pick up a Jim Chung cover and I open it up and it's anybody but Jim Chung, I'll still enjoy the comic, I'm sure. But man, it could have been that much better if it had Jim Chung on the inside. Dang
Oh
it.
yeah, I agree. And
Oh,
there's truth to it. It's definitely truth. And so I keep it as consistent as possible, and I provide the best quality as I can. I mean, I don't think I'm a good artist, honestly. Like, I
oh,
always look at my stuff, and I'm like, I know where I need to improve on and provide to get better and better. But you know, it does like make me excited when people do see it and they're like, oh, I like the artwork. Like you're fine. Stop worrying.
yep,
And then, because I'm always like, damn, I gotta give the public the best. And sometimes, you get those artists who want to wait till they finally believe that they're good and they're ready to do that series. You can't do that. You have to be like, screw it. I got to make it now. Otherwise, you're just going to be that person that's just going to talk about it, and everyone's going to be sick and tired of hearing, ah, oh, here's that Zack again talking about Sonderon, to which he's never going to do the book. So, like, shut up. We don't want to hear you. I'm making it. You got to make it. You got to get it out there. You may not like it 10 years from now, but you did it. It's out there and people know about it.
Well, and you also learn so much just through the act of doing the artwork that you wouldn't in a way where if you just sat and talked about it for 10 years. That's again for the comic I self-published. I think it was between issues like 5 and 6. It just felt like a galactic jump, like in my own artwork, where I'm the kind of person where the thing I hate the most is whatever the last thing I just did is, because I can see all the mistakes. And that's between those two issues. I was like, you know what? Issue 5, it's got problems. Issue 6. And
Yeah.
then from there on, you discover new problems that you get to explore.
I mean, what is it? My backup story for the artwork. I did the backup story, finished it completely before I started on the main story, and the artwork and that's just a tad bit different than the story. And it's just like, wow, all right, like, okay, let's go. Like, makes me a little happy because that's just a backup story. And
Sure.
believe it or not, to everyone who's listening in on that stream, including you, like, the backup story actually has a little Easter egg that's going to be continued in a crossover comic that will be coming out later this year. So
Whoa.
there's a reason why that backstory is added in.
Crossovers already? You haven't even launched your first issue and you're planning crossovers? My God.
So my colorist, he's got his own comic, Purity, that he'll be launching the month after I launch. And we were talking, and he's a colorist. He's done a lot of gigs for the industry so far. He's building his name up faster, and we both see an opportunity. I know his campaign will fund. I know it. And later on, around October, November, will be the crossover between my character versus his character.
Ooh.
And his character is like a witch from the Puritan Salem witch trials.
Okay.
Falsely accused, that typical bad girl comic stuff you see, like she, Lady Death and stuff. So
Mid
it's gonna have
90s.
like a sexy babe with magic powers fighting an alien from outer space. So it's such a weird mashup, but
That's
the
cool.
character that's in the backup story for my first issue is the character that's gonna bring them together.
Okay. Interesting.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's
I'm
some
excited about it. Me and him were talking about it for like a year and a half, fitting it in, and that's why, like, he's launching his campaign after mine, Voyage issue 1, Purity issue 1 later on in the year, crossover. It's gonna be amazing, dude.
that's really cool. Wow. Oh, that like legit my mind got like so derailed, just like the how would I put it? Like the chutzpah to be planning that far and working so far ahead. Um Again, like it just indicates a really strong passion for your characters and your projects. Um that is inspiring. Like that's just like I feel warm like in my heart. That's fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Like, it's cool to see people get excited for like this character because I'm a huge fan of it, and I'm always questioning, like, oh, is the public gonna hate it? And there's gonna be some haters, and I'm okay with that. But at this moment, I'm just like trying to build up that fan base to get excited for it. And one of the hardest things for Kickstarter, to because I'm pre-launching it right now, and the hardest thing for it is obtaining subscribers. People, from places like, do I put money for, do I pay money that I don't have for ads? Because are they going to work or not?
Yep.
Are you, going many podcasts and get it featured? Is people going to be aware of that? Social media is like a big thing. Twitter and Instagram are having these ups and downs, so people
Oh
are
yeah.
fluctuating back and forth. And you had TikTok, who was under fire. So it's like, how do you get the attention on the project? So it's a huge thing that I'm struggling with.
I definitely feel that on the podcast side of things. I've had a number of people um tell me that I should be more active on Twitter. And I just the thing that I do with comic books, because like I said, I spend a half hour to 45 minutes talking about 2 issues at a time. The thing that I do just is not compatible with what Twitter does, the boiling everything down to as small as you can. And I don't think I can't see a way that I can interact with that in a way that feels good for me and gets the point of breakdown across at the same time. But like you said, it is super limiting. Like there's so many comic artists and creators and writers who are active on Twitter that aren't active anywhere else that you're just not going to get access to if you don't engage with that. So I absolutely feel you on that front.
Yeah, it sucks.
Ugh. I'm getting a note from Zoom that we are down to 4 minutes left for the meeting time.
Really? It's been like
Yes.
that long? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's this has been fantastic. Is there anything you would like to say before we have to stop the recording?
Like for everyone that's listening in, man, like I put a we definitely talked a lot about the project. I hope, talking about it as much, got you guys excited. And I hope to see you guys, become backers for the project because this is going to be huge. Like this is an amazing project that I've been working on a couple of years putting together, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm excited. I hope that you guys are excited. And yeah, dude, don't be afraid to even message me on Instagram and Twitter. It's Zackary's Art lowercase. Like any questions you guys have, like I will answer them all. Don't be afraid.
That's I can attest to that. We've been messaging back and forth through Facebook/Instagram Messenger. Zachary's been forthcoming, gracious with his time, um, fast with responses. All the good things that you can be on a social media DM for sure. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to come on. Thank you for giving me the heads up about your comic. Uh, I'm definitely looking forward to reading it someday.
Thank you.
And getting a chance to share actual insight into it. That's exciting.
Man, I can't wait for the feedback. So like when people read it and they give me the feedback, like what they thought of the story. So that's gonna be sick.
Well, just so everybody who's listening knows, I will have a link to the Kickstarter both in the info section on the podcast. So if you're listening to this through one of the podcast mediums, there will be a link there to the Kickstarter. And if you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description to that as well. We would love to see you guys turn out. I would love to see this happen. I'm very excited for it. And thank you everybody for your time and attention. Thank you again, Zack Marois from Dwarf Star Forge. Okay, I was waiting for a correction in case I didn't remember
It's
correctly.
all good. Like it's Door Star Comics.
Yeah, Dwarf Star Comics, my bad. What is Dwarf Star Forge? It's got to be something else. But again, thank you so much.